Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Josephson, and welcome to the world premiere of our new series called Castiron Bites. And I'm just so excited for our guest today. So I'm Mark Josephson. I'm the founder and CEO of Castiron. If you haven't met us yet, we are the custom website platform for cottage food makers and custom bakers. The goal of this series is to shine the light on special people and share their stories, people who are special and interesting in our space. And it's the people who inspire us. It's the people we learn from. And as the CEO of this company, I get to talk to so many of them, and I want to share them with you. And so there's no better person to kick us off on this series than Coach Chef Kim Houston. Chef, Coach, you tell me. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. I was really surprised to learn I was the first person. I was like, whoa, that is really exciting.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah.
You're going to be great. So Coach, Chef, Kim, how should we address you?
It's all of the things because I am a coach and a chef.
Right. So you're actually, sorry, you're trained at the Le Cordon Bleu.
Yes.
You have a master's in education.
Yes.
You are studying for your doctorate.
Yes.
You are a life coach.
Yep.
A mindset coach.
Yep.
A mindset practitioner.
Yep.
An author.
Yep.
Podcaster.
Yep.
Photography expert.
Yep.
Mom.
Yep. Times two.
So, oh my, times two. So, like, how do you describe yourself? Tell us your story.
Oh goodness. I am honestly just a girl who got hurt and had to change my life. So if we start there, like I did all the things, and I say all the things a lot. So I did all of the things pre-COVID. And I had a kid who was modeling. I had a kid who wanted to be on Broadway, and we were homeschooling, and I ran a boutique custom bakery in Atlanta. I had a lot of celebrity clientele, so I was always doing Real Housewives of Atlanta stuff. Like we were always on the go pre-COVID, and that was our life. Like it was a thing. We had a YouTube channel. People were following along because they were like, "When do you sleep?" And I was like, "Don't." Like we sleep in the car. We weren't homeless. We were just always on the go. And once COVID happened, okay, wait, I'm gonna give you the full COVID story. So
Okay.
we're gonna open a bakery, and on Friday, March 13th, my loan was approved. Saturday, March 14th, we went into quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the work that I had been doing prior to COVID to like build up this, very large following and doing all these things, doing these TV shows so that people knew who I was when I opened this bakery, none of it mattered. Like once we went into this 2-week thing, none of it mattered. So the loan naturally disappeared. And everything started to kind of unravel and kind of change. So that was March. In August, my ex-husband was like, "This isn't working for me." And I was like, "Me either." And so we decided to get divorced. That was 2 weeks before my 40th birthday. And then on my 40th birthday, I woke up and was like, I need to do something different because we were still in the middle of a pandemic, right? So
Yep.
I didn't know if the chef life was going to work out or not. And I started photography. And so that's kind of where that piece came in November. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up, I was totally fine. By the time I took the turkey out of the oven, I almost dropped it. And I was screaming for the kids, and I was like, "Come help me, come help me." And they're like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just literally could not hold the turkey anymore." By 9 p.m. when we got back home, I couldn't turn a doorknob. I could not undress myself. I couldn't hold a cup. And we were like, "What's happening?" Now, granted, it's Thanksgiving, so no doctors are at work. And I had to wait until the following Tuesday. And when I got there and I was telling them my symptoms, I was like, "My fingers, like I can't feel them. Like I don't know what's going on. I can't hold anything." And they're like, "We need an x-ray of your neck." And I was like, "But my fingers are the problem." And she was like, "We need an x-ray of your neck." And I found out I had degenerative disc in my neck. And I was like, "From what? Like, where'd this come from?" And she was like, "Show me how you decorate cookies." And so I got into that posture, and she said, all that looking down, that puts strain on your neck and your back. And she told me to close my business effective immediately. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, I just got the loan. I'm just ready to go.
Like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah, no, you can't do this. And so I spent the next 7 months in physical therapy, learning how to redress myself, learning how to write my name again, because I had zero, like no strength whatsoever in my hands, which also meant that this new hobby I have of photography, I couldn't hold a camera. And I was like, well, I still have bills to pay. So what if everything that I know about photography, I did it on a cell phone and it worked? And I was like, oh, this is fun. And that kind of started this trajectory that I'm on, where I was asked to tell my story at conferences, and I did that. And then when people come up to you after a conference and they're like, how do I work with you? Like, how do I become more like you? And I was like, I don't know. Let me go to school and find out. So that's where the life coaching came in, is that I literally went to school to be a transformational life coach. And so now that's how we got here.
That's amazing. So I'm just going to call out, thank you. I'm going to call out for our viewers that you do have a class. It's called Mastering Cell Phone Photography.
Yeah.
And we have a special offer of 50% off for people
Yeah.
who want to subscribe. The link will be below. It'll be in our emails and all that stuff. Coach Chef Kim also has a promo code for a cast iron, $1 a month trial. How do you embrace or deal with the challenges that you had? Talk about the mindset that it takes, because we all have challenges. Some are not as massive as the ones that you had during that time, but we all sort of have our own stuff that we bring and challenges that we come to. How do you deal with those? How do you embrace those or handle those?
Yeah. So in the very beginning, so like once I got the whole shut down the business thing, I was like, what? So I was like, dude, it's been 3 months. And in 3 months, my marriage has ended. My business is closed and I can't use my hands. Right. So for me at that point, looking at January 2021, I was like, what are we going to do? Because I still got bills to pay. I still have 2 kids who need to go to school. Like, what are we doing?
Were
And
you scared?
I was terrified. I think I was more terrified because we were still in the pandemic, and my son's school called them to campus. And so I had to take my newly 18-year-old child to college. This is before we had vaccines and all that. And I was like, you're leaving your kid and you don't know if you'll ever see him again. And it was one of those situations where we had to blindly pick a school, right? Like, we'd never visited the campus. And so the first time we saw the campus, it was when I was leaving my kid, and we had 2 hours to get him in his dorm room. That's it. And then we had to leave. Like, all parents had to go away. And which, their COVID protocols, which was fine. But it was in that moment that I was like, what if I never see my kid again? Like, we don't know what this really is and what's happening. So what do we do? And while we were driving back home, I was like, I just left my kid. I'm getting divorced. I've closed my business. Who am I? Like, in this next phase of my life, who am I going to be? And so on that ride home, I was like, I'm either this is going to be that moment that changes everything and it's great, or this is going to be that moment that destroys me. And I'm not the type to be destroyed. So I went with, we're going to ride this to the end, like whatever it is. And that was the first time I made $10,000 in a month. Like, everything about my outlook on life changed, where I was like,
Because
no.
you were at a moment where it sounds like you were at a moment where you had your choice. You really had a choice to make.
Yeah, go to the right.
And go to the right. So when you coach people, because we all run into this moment where we feel like we have this choice, how do you know which choice to make? And how do you have the courage? How do you help people have the courage to make that choice? Whether that's start a business or
it's
sell more cookies or do whatever.
So what I've learned as a coach is that typically I'll just tell people do it afraid, right? Like just do it scared. Like what difference does it make? But now that I understand the research behind it, the research behind why we say do it afraid is because fear and excitement live in the same place in your brain. Like if you're scared or if you're really, really excited, the same places in your brain are what are highlighted. So if the same part of my brain is registering fear and excitement, then I may as well be excited. Right. So when we look at the research behind the neuroscience of this, it's like, well, yeah, you're afraid, but say out loud, I'm really excited, XYZ is happening. Because then you're telling your brain, this is not fear. This is excitement. I don't even
Because
say
it's the same neurons firing.
it's the same place in your brain. So you may as well go for the positive instead of going for the negative side of it. Because the difference is, even though the same part of your brain is lighting up, if you say, I'm scared, your brain will go find evidence. It will go find memories of you being afraid, which makes you more afraid, right?
Yes.
If you say, I'm
Yes.
excited, your brain goes and finds memories of you being excited. It's the same feeling. So you
All
may
right.
as
So
well.
I have to tell you, and everyone who's watching now totally gets why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, because it's so powerful. And you think you're coming to learn about how to be a better photographer, and I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 tips because
Yeah,
that's important. And everybody should go sign up for Mastering Cell Phone Photography and get that bonus and discount, because
yeah,
I'm confident you're going to learn how to take better pictures and be a better person along the way. Um, Talk to me a little bit about um, how this shows up in your daily life with your family and the choices you make, because so much of our community, the custom bakers, the cottage food creators, are home
Mhm.
and doing something. They
Yep.
are, it's rare that they say, oh, I'm making sourdough, or I make custom logo cookies. They say, well, I'm taking care of my kids, or
Mhm.
it's multi hyphenate, right? It's
Yes.
this and that, this and that. So with all those competing pressures,
Yeah.
I mean, being an entrepreneur, oh my God, it's terrifying. But like being a parent, it's terrifying. You can see where my brain goes.
Yep.
I just actually thought it is
Exciting.
exciting to be an entrepreneur. It is exciting to be a parent. How do you
Yes.
deal with that in like in the day to day and really tactically?
Yeah. So my life is an and situation. Like, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a mom. So I have a kid that is 21 and is currently starring in Fat Ham in Boston. So he's a 21-year-old Shakespearean actor, right? How do you create that type of
Amazing.
kid? I don't know. Okay. That's just who the kid is. And I was just here to guide him. But then I have an 18-year-old who was just diagnosed with autism last year.
Mm,
And for 10 years, we had a misdiagnosis. So having to like relearn things, they gave her a diagnosis at 6 that was incorrect. And
mm.
so we lived our lives in service to the first diagnosis, which is not what it was. And so now it's like, whenever I call them intrusive thoughts, right? So whenever an intrusive thought enters the picture, where it's like, well, maybe I should have pushed harder, or maybe I should have done this differently. I go have conversations with my children. And I think that is the biggest, like, that a girl is to ask your kids about their childhood, about their life. Like, how do you guys feel about my parenting? We are very open in my home. My kids were not put in timeout. I was put in timeout. So I had mommy timeout. And the reason for that is children are being developmentally appropriate. They just are. And if you as a parent can't handle the overstimulation of the noise or the TV, or your kid is banging on something, my kids were always stacking things. Put yourself on timeout, not your children. Why are you punishing your kids for being developmentally appropriate? And as a homeschool mom of 10 years, I can say that I've literally been with my
Mm-hmm.
children 24/7 for the last 10 years. So I had to learn I cannot punish you every day. If I yell at you every day, we are not going to make it. So I'm not a parent who was like, I'm your mom, not your friend. No, I'm your friend and your mother. And so my
Mm-hmm.
kids knew that they could have those conversations. They know when I am tapped out. It's like, how little kids like to touch you a lot. I'm not a hugger. And my kids know this. So they know to ask for permission first. So that teaches
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, right? So even in the way that I parent, it's also the way that I coach. So I'm like,
Right. So breaking this down. Yeah, bring this down into somebody who's on the call now, who's listening, and they have a home bakery, they are trying to make
Yeah.
it work, or they have choices they make. How does that show
Yeah,
up for them, do you
so
think?
we set some really interesting boundaries when I was, working on cakes and cookies at home with my kids and we're homeschooling. Number one, we had a calendar in the kitchen. If you did not put whatever you needed on the calendar, it was not happening. Like that was a rule in the house because I need to juggle your schedules with mine. So everything went on the calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. And that was a rule.
Did they you probably have to learn that once, right? Like did it
One
ever
time,
miss
yep,
something?
a birthday party or something didn't make its way on, well, you're not going. And that was just, I'm sorry, but no, because I took an order and now I have to do this. Another piece to that was if the kids wanted to do something, and I used to calculate my life in orders. So, okay, that's two
Mm.
cakes. All right, so I need to do like a special or something really quickly to make this money. They knew that if they wanted to do something, they would go ahead and do the cake math for me. And they would be like, so mom, I have this event coming up and it's going to cost $150. How many cookies is that? How many cakes is that? How much time is that from you?
I do the same thing. I do the same thing with my job and like,
Yeah.
oh, that's 1 week of pay or 2 days of
Yeah.
pay or something, right? To like
Yes.
triangulate to that. That's
But teach your
it's
kids.
like yeah.
Yeah. And they're learning that entrepreneurial skill without realizing they're learning the entrepreneurial skill. And then the
Hmm.
other one was depending on what music was playing would determine if they could talk to me. So if I was playing gospel, like my favorite artist was Tasha Cobbs. If my kids heard Tasha Cobbs, that meant do not talk to me. It meant whatever I was working on wasn't working. The fondant is melting, the chocolate isn't doing what it needs. Something is not working. And so they knew if they heard Tasha Cobbs, do not come in the kitchen. Do not ask me for anything. My ex-husband would bring dinner home. Like the kids would text him and be like, Mommy's playing Tasha Cobbs. And he would be
Uh-oh.
like, what are we eating for dinner? Right. Like they knew if you heard gospel music, no, don't talk to me. But if they heard Beyonce, it was a free for all. They could come in the kitchen, we could have a conversation, they could, do behind the scenes footage for me for YouTube. So we had these little things just put in place where it was almost like, how do you balance work and life together? So our work-life
Yeah.
balance was that. And
The
that's
soundtrack of life.
yeah, that's
That's
how we
amazing. That's so cool. All right, let's talk about photography. So you had to
yeah,
give up the big camera and get to the
yeah,
cell phone camera.
yep,
And now you teach a class, the Mastering Cell Phone Photography class, which you
yeah.
can get for half off with the link below. Like, what are some things you can share that aren't in the class or that maybe could help us get better at it?
Oh, okay, so many things. So one, it does matter if you take a good photo or not. And I start with that at all times. I'm like, do you realize if you take a better photo, you can charge more money? People eat with their eyes. Like that is just a known fact. You eat with your eyes. And a lot of the work that I used to do, people wouldn't ever cut the cake and they would never eat the cookies. And I was like, that's annoying. Do you know how much time I spent? Eat it. Like, please eat it. And they're like, but it's a masterpiece. It's a work of art, and I can't do that. Well, if I'd never like learned how to do photography, that masterpiece would not be a masterpiece because I had no way to show people. So taking the photo matters. Does it matter if you take it at 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon? For me, it does not. And I tell people in the class, you don't need all the bells and whistles. Like I have the bells and whistles because I'm a photographer, but you don't need it. You need a ring light that's really good. It doesn't need to be real bright either. I tell people pretend the ring light is the sun, which helps them. See, yours is on the side. I saw when you looked up just then, it's on the side of you, right? So put
Is
your
that bad?
no, that's really good.
Okay.
Most people want to
Oh,
put
phew.
they want to put the light above whatever they're taking a picture of. Why would you do that? The sun is not there. So that helps people understand it. And they're like, what? And I'm like, the sun would not be above your cookie. So why are you putting a light above the cookie? And that's why you can't get
Okay.
rid of
So
the
number
ring.
one, get a ring light. Number two, treat it like the sun.
Yes. And you can
Okay.
diffuse it, like just throw a pillowcase over it, a white one.
Oh my gosh.
Takes care of diffusion, right?
Diffuse
So
with a pillowcase.
yep, that one's really simple. And then particularly if you're doing like a two-tiered cake or something that's like standing, something stacked, something tall, Flip your phone upside down to take the photo.
Flip your phone. What? Okay, you just lost me. Everything else made perfect sense. Like I'm manifesting, I'm chasing joy, all the stuff. Like I'm
And
on
you flip
board.
your phone upside down. Yeah. So when you hold your phone, your camera is at the top, right? So when you
Okay.
go to
Yep.
take a photo, the camera is up here. If you flip it upside down, oh, now you can't see it. The camera's at the bottom. So if the camera is at the bottom, that is how you get this really like robust photo of whatever you're taking a picture of. And your camera is straight. So whenever we take the picture the other way, you have this tendency to tilt forward. And so your pictures are off a little bit. And I can tell the difference between the two. And it works for people. It works for cakes. It doesn't really work for cookies because unless they're a 3D cookie, it doesn't really work. But like even in the aquarium Friday, this girl was like doing a whole photo shoot. And I walked up and I said, hey, flip your phone upside down. And then they started screaming when they saw the difference between the two photos. And then everybody else in the aquarium was flipping their phones upside down while we were there. But it literally changes what your photos look like.
So get a ring light. They cost $10 on Amazon.
Yep.
But if you can buy from a local store, buy from a local store. That's always my
I
choice.
love that.
Think about it as the sun. So it's
Yes.
not directly above, it's right up here.
Also,
You can diffuse it with a pillowcase. Who knew? A white
yeah,
pillowcase.
a white pillow.
I'm going to try that. But if I did that now, the whole thing would fall down. And turn your phone upside down, which to
Yes.
me is like mind blowing. I can't wait to try it. And it's like a pro
Yep.
tip. And so, what will people learn in your class? Tell us a little bit more about that class.
They learn about editing their photos. So even though I gave you all those tips, if you don't know how to edit the photo, it's still going to look like everything else you take a picture of, right? So if you want that really Pinterest perfect looking photo, you got to do a little bit of editing. I make that very easy. Inside of the class, you get free presets. So you don't even have to learn the technical aspects of it. You download, the free Lightroom app to your phone. I give you the presets, which cost you a whole lot of money if you try and buy them. And then you can just change it. You can set up your aesthetic and now you have perfect photos to put online. So that is in there. It goes over taking flat lay photos. There's now one in there if you want to start a blog. I've added just like a little mini course, like an intro to tutorial based photography. So that's like when you're looking at a blog and you want to know the step-by-step process of something. If you're someone who wants to do that, there's a mini class in there on that too. So there's lots packed into it. Spend a weekend and change your whole life. That's it.
That's it. No pressure. No, keep your expectations moderated. Okay, so I have one more question before we get into the wrap up stuff because
Yes.
Cast Iron Bites is supposed to be bite sized. I feel like we could do hours, and we have been. We were on a little bit beforehand. So recently, something happened in our life where we were waiting for something to show up, and my wife said, "I am going to manifest that it is everything that we want it to be."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be good, whatever. Let's not get our hopes up." And she said, "No, let's manifest and make it so."
Yes.
Like, talk about manifesting because I'm so
Oh
interested
my
in
God.
this.
Yeah. So okay. So manifesting, can you manifest a whole new life? Yes, you can. I did it in August. In August, I was like, I don't know where we're going to live, but I'm not re-signing the lease to this house. And we need to move. And it needs to be the best thing ever. And there were these really expensive apartments that I went past. They just came out of nowhere. I looked at them and I was like, oh my God, I want to live there. And the lady was like, it's like $3,000 a month. And I was like, I cannot afford that. And so then I came back with my daughter about 3 weeks later. And we looked at them. And then the lady said to me, by the way, they're on special. They're $800 off right now if you were to sign this week. And I was like, wait, what? And like this was Wednesday. On that Monday, I said I'm not re-signing the lease. This was Wednesday. And I was like, okay, let me crunch some numbers and see what that looks like. And it turns out this very luxurious apartment was going to be less than the house I was living in once I crunched the numbers. And then
Giddy up.
I was like, okay. And so then on Friday, I started filling out the stuff. And this is when all hell broke loose. So if you're an entrepreneur, the world does not like you, right? So they have all these in place, like we need your bank statements and we need, you know, a job stuff. And I'm like, I don't have that. I am my boss. And we went back and forth for about 4 days. And I got to the point where I was starting to freak out. Like that following Monday, I was like, this is not going to happen. I'm going to have to live in this house again. And then my kids were like, we don't do that here. And I was like, you
Mm.
are absolutely right. We do not say that because you're always manifesting, whether it's positive or negative. If you put the negative out there, the universe will give you the negative. So I was like, okay, fine. Not only are we going to get this apartment, we're going to get it with ease. So whatever the issues are, they're not going to be my problem. 2 days later, I got a congratulations email. And then the girl sent me a text message. She's like, call me immediately. And what ended up happening was they randomly got a pop-up visit from their regional manager who came in, saw that we were having issues with my current lender, with the people I was leasing from. And the lady's daughter had an issue with them. And she
Oh,
was like,
no way.
get her out of that house. And they approved it without going through all of the red tape they were supposed to do for entrepreneurs. And we got into this luxury apartment and we literally moved within 15 days. And the thing that we kept saying was, if not this, better. Like, if I don't get this apartment, there is something else out there for me. But every time we roll through the community, I'm like, this is the better.
If not this, better.
If not this, better. So that's how we deal with
Amazing.
like, if we hadn't gotten the house, okay, cool. Like if we didn't get this luxury apartment, no problem. Something better was there. And then, so remember, I was like, I'm not re-signing my lease. Yep. I didn't have to pay the $60 to break the lease. Well, not 60. We had to give them 60-day notice and they wanted 3 months worth of rent. I didn't have to pay that. And they're sending me a refund check. So yes, you can manifest all the things you want.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. And it's about being positive and seeing the positive. Yeah. What I'm taking from that is choosing to be positive and look at the world as an opportunity and the things in front of you, because tying it back to what you said, fear and excitement are the same neurons.
Yep.
And that feeling of the what's in front of us is unknown. And we can look at it as an opportunity and possibility, or we can look at it as like a cloud coming our way. Go for the positive. Go for the protein. So one of my friends used to say, always start with the protein. Always start with the good stuff.
For the dopamine hit. Even if for no other reason, if you visualize yourself having the thing, you're going to bring that energy into you where you get the thing. Okay.
So Coach Chef Kim, now we get to our rapid fire wrap up. Okay. I'm manifesting amazing answers here. I know you're going to do it. Okay. So what's the best meal you've ever had?
Oh, dear God. Okay, let's see. There was no meat involved. So we had these really delicious mashed potatoes and roasted green beans. It was served with like lamb or something, but I didn't like it. But I ate the mashed potatoes and I don't like green beans, but something about roasted green beans that day, it was the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my life. Where was it? We were at some restaurant in New York. I don't even remember which one it was. It was after my son did his TED Talk, but it was so good. No, okay. Well, you know what?
If you could figure out where that was, let me know, because I'm in New York and I want those. I want to try that. All right. Number 2, what's the best piece of advice someone has given you?
Ooh. Accept that you are thriving. My therapist told me that. She was like, your life is not falling apart. Your life is actually everything it needs to be, and you are thriving. And because you've lived in a perpetual state of hypervigilance for so long, you cannot accept the fact that your life isn't falling apart. So accepting that I was thriving was the best advice I was ever given.
I mean, I have the chills because the permission to be yourself and to love yourself and to accept that we're all flawed in some way, but like we're doing the best we can and we're doing better than, my wife and I say, these are the good old days.
They are, like, you're making them right now.
Mm-hmm. Really are. Okay. Now, who inspires you? I'd like you to tag somebody, like the virtual tag. Who inspires you? Who should we look to next for inspiration and meaning and learning?
Oh, there's so many people. Okay. So dear God, I had a person too, and now 5 just popped into my head. So I think at this point, the person who inspires me probably the most is actually one of the people who was in my coaching program. So Aline,
Okay.
and Aline is a sugar artist, but she uses all these different mediums. And just because we've worked so intricately together over the past couple of months, I've seen her progress in how do you take this thing that you're really great at and turn it into sugar. It has so many layers to it. And so
Yeah.
she's definitely been the person. She has Swedish and Zuckery cakes. There we go. I couldn't think of it. Zuckery cakes, but she's
Mm.
in, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So I want to say thank you 1,000 times for being our guinea pig today. I got so much out of this. I'm really hopeful and believe that our community will too. I will remind everybody that Coach Chef Kim, in addition to all the amazing things she does and energy and value she brings, she also teaches an incredible photography class that you can get, Mastering Cell Phone Photography, and we have 50% off. So please go buy it and learn, because you can tell you're going to learn so much more than just how to take a great picture. And
Yeah.
to learn more about Coach Chef Kim and all you have going on, you're at coachchefkim.com. That's
Yep.
the place where they can get everything. And you feel free to check us out at castiron.me for helping give you all the time to do all these wonderful things, because we'll take care of all of that, all the technology stuff for your business. Coach, thank you so much. Joy to talk to, and have a wonderful day.
Will do. Thanks, guys.